Grouping and regrouping in multilingual settings. Grouping 2 by second language. This week's guiding question is, what is the unique nature of teaching and learning when all the students are second language speakers of the language of instruction? It's easy to lump bilingual learners together as if they were a homogeneous group. Too often, when we say second language learner, the first thing to come to mind is a beginner or a newcomer. In reality, bilingual learners arrive at school with a wide range of skills in both of their languages. The students in your classroom are likely to be at different levels of language proficiency, both in English and in their home languages. Depending on your context, your bilingual learners may all come from the same language background or speak dozens of languages other than English. At the end of this video, you will be introduced to a tool that will help you get to know your students and their capabilities better. In second language group, all the students are second language speakers of the language of instruction. In many schools, there's a designated time for English language development, or English as a second language. The students are sometimes organized by language proficiency level. Aside from these times, second language groups can and should be organized more informally throughout the day during content and literacy instruction. Remember that students learning through their second language are doing so all day long. This video addresses 3 questions. What are the opportunities for teachers and students for developing language proficiency, content knowledge, and intercultural competence when all the students in the group are second language learners of the language of instruction? Second, what would students miss if they were always grouped with other second language speakers? And finally, what are the most appropriate strategies to use in second language groups to best meet the needs of the students? To become fluent in a second language, students have to practice a lot. Second language groups provide bilingual learners opportunities to focus on aspects of language not needed by native speakers and at their own level of language proficiency. L2 instruction can be structured with explicit learning targets related to vocabulary and grammar, or on more spontaneous language use, where the goal is for students to communicate their ideas without worrying too much about form. Second language instruction should focus on the language students need to express their thinking around the topic under study when they're in integrated groups. As an example, in addition to formal ESL instruction, a teacher might pull a small group of second language speakers aside for just 5 to 10 minutes to rehearse a language structure so they can participate in a whole group activity with more confidence. Second language learners usually feel more confident when they don't have to compete with students who are already fluent in the language of instruction. Essentially, everyone in an L2 group is in the same boat. This reduces what is called the affective filter, or the psychological stress experienced by having to make sense of and communicate through a second language. In whole group instruction, second language speakers often know the answer, but need extra time to formulate how to express what they know. By the time they have a sentence ready, native speakers already have their hands up and often have shouted out the answer. In second language groups, bilingual learners can more easily shine among their peers. Second language groups foster risk-taking and can help bilingual learners develop a sense of security that lends itself to greater learning. L2 groups provide an important part of becoming academically bilingual, but they do not provide all the opportunities students need to become academically successful. If students spend all their time only with other second language learners, they will not have a regular access to native speakers as models and will miss out on opportunities to interact with students from the majority language and culture. Teachers sometimes overcompensate for students' lack of language proficiency by watering down the curriculum to make it more, quote, accessible, instead of working to make challenging concepts understandable. A final limitation is that if students are always being taught through their second language, they won't benefit from being able to use their first language to deepen their understandings of the concepts. While second language groups allow students to focus on the structure of English, the work on language should always be done within a meaningful context. Decontextualized skills worksheets, grammar exercises, or vocabulary memorization are not appropriate. To the extent possible, work in L2 groups should be preparing students to participate in integrated or whole group activities in content area or literacy instruction. The mix and match strategy is particularly effective for oral language development, both for grammatical accuracy and for more general communicative competence. Other supports are jazz chants and any form of music where lyrics are predictable and foster movement. In second language groups, teachers can make abstract concepts come alive through the use of visuals, models, and hands-on activities. This is what we mean by sheltering instruction. While it is important to maintain high expectations for students learning through their second language, the reality is they're not going to understand everything. For this reason, it is critical that they focus in on what is most important about the topic of instruction. Sheltering is not about teaching what is easiest. Rather, it is making what is most important understandable. Here is an example of the kind of image that could be developed or used in a second language group to make an abstract concept visible to students. Taken together, the different images represent the larger concept of relationship. Each section demonstrates how the same word has a slightly different meaning in different contexts. With the visual as a support, students can then develop the language of relationships appropriate to the particular academic context. Many supports exist to help content area, literacy, and special teachers. One resource is the asset-based WIDA can-do descriptors. The can-do descriptors are designed to help you get to know your students and to plan to meet the needs of bilingual learners at different levels of language proficiency. This abbreviated table of the descriptors for grades 3 through 5 gives you an idea of how the resource is organized. In the larger documents, there are descriptors for students at 5 levels of language proficiency in each of the domains of language: listening, speaking, reading, and writing. For example, based on the indicators, you can expect that students who are at a developing level of English language proficiency in writing can produce simple expository or narratives text, string together related sentences, as well as describe events, people, processes, and procedures. Links to the WIDA website and the full documents regarding the can-do descriptors are included in the next section of this Explore.